everybody, welcome back to Wrestling With My Opinion. Again, my name is Frank. If it's your first time here, do yourself a favor. Click on that subscribe button, click a like, drop a comment. Let me know what you think, if there's something you want me to cover or something like that. I call this Wrestling With My Opinion, but I want to hear yours as well. So give me some information, throw me a few comments. Today we're going to cover a multitude of things. There's, of course, AEW today teasing a big announcement upcoming, launching a new Twitter account. You've got Randy Orton in an exchange with Will Ospreay today on Twitter. Eric Bischoff on his podcast has responded to the reports about his role with WWE. So we're going to get some information about his thoughts on that. I mean, there's just been a ton of... WWE MSG ticket sales, good, bad, or otherwise. There's been reports, so let's jump right into it. Let's start off with the Eric Bischoff stuff. I am going to read just a little bit here, basically of what he has said. Basically, Bischoff responded to the reports. Now, the reports have been that his role has been changed. He's no longer actually going to be in creative for SmackDown. And that led to a lot of speculation about, did he do something or say something? There's also been a whole lot of stuff out there about him not showing up. Was he backstage? Was he not backstage? What's the deal there? Was he supposed to be or not supposed to be? But he kind of responded to all that. And that happened on his podcast, which I think came out Sunday night. But basically, he says, I've been reading a lot of the dirt from a lot of the dirt sheets, the faux journalists out there that presumably are trying to convince people that they know what's really going on. So far, the reporting on all of my, and then he pauses and says, everything that I've read has been wrong. I'm not going to address it specifically because, number one, I don't want to give them or the crap that they bring any credibility. Bischoff went on to say, my start date was never supposed to be before July 22nd. I made that very clear, and that was the understanding across the board. Nonetheless, it was reported across the boards early on the dirt sheet scumbags, or by the dirt sheet scumbags, not to be named here, and it was reported wrong. Anything that's been written and reported so far has been wrong in terms of my role and what it actually is and what it will be, and when my start date will be. Bischoff emphasized, this is such a big job, there's no way for me or anybody else to walk in and take control of anything immediately. It's going to be a process, and in my case, it's going to be a very long process because it's a very big job, and learning even the people that are involved and their respective roles and the processes that are involved, it's just going to take time. So it'll be an evolution over time, as opposed to, okay, it's your show tonight. That's not going to be the case with me or Paul, referring to Paul Heyman, of course, because he's going to be in the same role with Raw, or anybody else. It's a process, and my process is going to begin, really, it started a little bit last week in terms of my integration into the process. But it'll start becoming more tangible on Tuesday, which will be the first time I attend a production meeting. Now, basically what Bischoff's saying here is that all the stuff that came out through any of the supposed dirt sheet reports, and really, in a way, I guess, being here on YouTube, I'm kind of in that as well, but that all of that is false. That if you thought he was supposed to be at SmackDown 2 weeks ago, you were wrong. That none of that was true. If you thought he was supposed to be at SmackDown last week, you were wrong. None of that was true. He gets in a little bit more in depth, talking about the move of his family, the temporary housing that they're living in Stamford, Connecticut, as he takes on this new position. He does talk about how he's basically had kind of an orientation, which is a series of meetings basically to try and meet everybody. To be perfectly honest, I see this as being very accurate. So if you're one of those people that's saying, what's going on with Bischoff, why are they not using him like they said they were going to, everybody might want to pump the brakes just a touch, because I got a feeling, I think Bischoff's being accurate and truthful on this, so let's not jump the gun. Let's move on to something actually a little bit more interesting, and that's going to be the Randy Orton Will Ospreay exchange on Twitter today. Now, this one wasn't like the exchange that Ospreay had with Seth Rollins, where they kind of went at each other, so to speak. This was more of kind of a friendly banter, and I think it was pretty interesting myself, and hopefully you will too. But basically, you know, there's a question now of will Orton go to New Japan when his contract with WWE is up? That is coming from what Orton says in these tweets. There's also a question of, is he upset about not being on the Raw reunion show? So basically how this all started. Will Ospreay put a tweet out, and he does little motivational tweets here and there, actually quite a bit. He put out there a tweet that said, execute the plan that makes you smile every single minute of every single day. When he put that out there, Randy Orton replied, good luck with that shit. I hesitate to say the S word, I'm sorry, but good luck with that S word. He followed that up by saying, realistically speaking, there's nothing that you could plan that makes you smile every single minute of every single day. But WWE is all about putting smiles on faces. Here's the interesting part. The hashtags. Hashtag Orton versus Ospreay. Actually, I did that backwards. It's Ospreay versus Orton. And then he put the date 6/2020. So June of 2020. He put that date on there. Hashtagged it. Okay? Ospreay responds, realistically, nah, maybe you got me there. I'm happy though. Hope you're happy where you are. But unfortunately, my friend, I'm here for the long run. I mean, you're like a multi-time champ. Could you just leave for a bit and come here for Ospreay versus Orton, then go back? Just saying. Well, again, interesting stuff right there, because you can tell these two apparently have a lot of admiration for each other just by the way they're going back and forth here. And respect, I guess I should say, not really admiration. So then Orton responds with, sounds like money to me. I'll ask Tuesday at SmackDown Live since I'm not on the Raw reunion show. Hashtag Raw, hashtag WWE, hashtag WTF. I mean, that's pretty much a straight shot across the bow saying that he thinks it's crap that he's been left off this reunion show. Now, Orton's been known to be a little volatile and opinionated in the past, and that's okay. The guy deserves it. Multiple championships, long successful lineage in WWE. But you know what? Maybe Orton is starting to think, I think I've done it all here. Maybe it's time to move on and try something different. Maybe it's all just in fun and in jest and we'll never see anything come of it. I, for one, if we had the opportunity to see a healthy Orton go against Will Ospreay while Ospreay is still healthy and in his prime, I think they could put on an entertaining as hell match. You talk about two complete polar opposites as far as in-ring style that could mesh and work well together. Those two would be amazing. I mean, I can't really say anything else about that. Now, my opinion on Orton going to someplace like New Japan, I think that would be great. I mean, to see him go over to New Japan and work with people like Ishii, Tanahashi, Okada, and I mean, you could go on and on for a long time because there's a ton of them. Sonata. I mean, there's just a ton of amazing talent over there that he's never had the chance to work with because he's always been that WWE guy, with good reason, but he's always been that WWE guy. Can you imagine the possibilities of him going over there and working with them guys? I mean, I think it would be excellent. Now, do I think he's legitimately upset about the Raw reunion and somewhat being snubbed? Not necessarily. Do I think he's maybe bothered by it? Did it maybe tweak his berries, so to speak, a little bit? Probably. Do I think he would walk in and be like, F you, or anything stupid like that? No, I highly doubt it. I think he's got way too much respect for WWE to pull that. And he's been there way too long. He wouldn't even have to pull that. He could just go straight to Vince and talk it out. So I highly doubt anything's going to come of that. I think they should have him on there with his long tenure and all the amazing things he's done over his time. I mean, he was part of Evolution. The ringleader for Legacy. Multiple championship runs with pretty much all the titles in WWE. I mean, he's done it all. Money in the Banks. He's done everything. So, I mean, when you think about it, you know, should he be there? Yeah, he absolutely should. Could it be maybe something that we as fans go all over Twitter and social media and raise hell about a lot, about not pushing the older guys anymore and the same old people and push these young guys? Could they maybe be thinking, let's not put too many of the old guys on the show? Maybe we have enough? Maybe. But, you know, who really knows in the end? Next topic jumps over to the now apparent competition for WWE, which is AEW. They launched a new Twitter account today. Well, AEW, I guess, didn't, but they maybe co-launched it with TNT, which is at AEW on TNT. Now, they're going to also be on Instagram at that as well. Now, the part that got everybody's attention more than just the account being created was all the stars, including Cody Rhodes, tweeting out and talking about a big announcement that would be coming soon. Now, originally everybody thought that maybe today. One of the tweets was from Leva, who plays the librarian, and she was, make sure you follow the account and be checking it on Wednesday when there's a big announcement. They had the Young Bucks do a special little promotional video telling the fans to watch the big announcement, and then they do a super kick deal to the camera. Many feel that this is just going to be them announcing the premiere date for the weekly TV show on TNT. Now, it like I said, it appears that this is going to be made on Wednesday, judging by what Leva Bates, I believe is her name, said on her Twitter account about this and asking people to go follow it. There's been some other speculation that it could be related to Pac. Of course, he dropped the title that he was carrying. I believe it's in Dragon Gate or something like that. But he dropped that title, which was actually the hanging point for him to not be showing up for AEW. So he is expected now to make his return, so to speak, and join back in with AEW and possibly show up at All Out. I think that would be excellent. So we'll have to see what happens there. There was another little tidbit of information that came out involving AEW that I just want to touch on. Much like the Shawn Spears event that happened where he had agreed to do an indie show and then he signed his contract and then they said, oh, he's not going to be there because he's under contract. Then it flip-flopped after a social media post was made about it. Well, that's happened again with Luchasaurus. He signed his contract with AEW now, informed an organization that he had signed to do a independent show with that he would not be there. That organization had already paid for flights and hotel and all this stuff. They weren't real happy about it. He said that that AEW would reimburse on that, but where the sticking point is when a small organization like that brings in somebody like this, they're kind of splurging to afford to bring them in. So then they not only splurge on the cost of bringing that talent in and paying for their flight and different things like that, but they splurge on advertising to make sure people know that talent's going to be there to try and draw the bigger crowd. And they can't just have them show up and not nobody know, because then people don't show up to see it. So their contention is that, hey, we spent a bunch of money on advertising and all that, and that stuff can't be recouped. Basically asking AEW to change their mind, allow him to attend. I haven't seen anything else about that. There's probably something out there that maybe I missed, but I kind of hope they do the same thing they did with Shawn Spears and say, hey, no, hang on. He will be there. We're not saying he can't do it, because I think that would be the right move for them. If they had just signed him and they're on weekly TV and all that stuff already, then I can understand saying, no, he can't be there. He's got events to do with us. They don't have anything again until All Out, really. So I don't see a problem with him doing that. Another little tidbit, this is going to jump back over to WWE. WWE, of course, has two big shows coming up at MSG in New York. Now, being that for the longest time was WWE country. I mean, nobody went into MSG except for them as far as wrestling was concerned, and every time they did, they were able to sell it out for the longest time now with ease. Well, they haven't run a show there in a while, and since you had a New Japan ROH co-show that ran there and did do very good numbers, well, it was reported by Wrestling Observer Radio that ticket sales have not been good, and a specific number on how the ticket sales wasn't given, but neither of the shows, either Raw or SmackDown on back-to-back nights, have sold out yet. Raw was expected to be an instant sellout, and that has been viewed as exceedingly disappointing, is what Meltzer reported through that. You know, I don't think this is really a big surprise. I think fans in general, just wrestling fans in general, have been disappointed with the WWE product or soured on the WWE product for a while now. So for fans to not rush out to buy tickets, even in that kind of market, is not a huge surprise to me. I do believe that before they get to the actual date of the shows, they will end up selling it out, because WWE is super smart. They're going to find a way to make things work, but they're also always looking at the bigger picture. Even though we don't agree with where they've been going creatively and the storylines and all that stuff that we get on our social media accounts and stuff and talk about, well, they're pretty damn smart when it comes to this stuff. So I don't see this being a huge issue. Now, another issue, and this is going to jump over to Impact Wrestling. As a lot of you are aware, Killer Kross made some comments about his Impact status, asking for release. He didn't really respond to it too much since then, other than just saying, you know, I'm good, I'm happy. Well, he's responded a little deeper now. He was on P.D. Williams' podcast. So basically what he had said is, we've talked about some things back and forth about what I said. I was comfortable with going there and talking about that stuff, specifically because P.D. was there. He's a company guy, meaning P.D. Williams being an Impact Wrestling guy. He said that speaking out against Impact Wrestling on P.D. Williams' podcast, there's a lot of convoluted stories that came out about my circumstance and my stance with the company. Initially, I wanted to ignore it, but I thought I should probably do some damage control. So that means that he's feeling a little pressure that he needs to say something about it and maybe say, hey, I'm not upset, I'm not mad, I'm not leaving, right? So here's what he ends up saying. I don't have anything disparaging to say about the company, and I made that clear. The bottom line is that I'm a human being. Killer Kross might not be a human being, but I am. The guy behind the glass coat is, and personal circumstances changed my life. I felt I was contributing to a greater degree than I was being compensated, and I tried to find common ground with them, but we weren't able to find one. But I'm a professional through and through. He goes on to say that his Impact experience has been awesome, but if he can't sustain himself, he needs to look for other options. At the end of the day, Kross says that he's lucky to be working with Impact and says it's a tight environment and that everyone is giving 100%. My status with them, hard to say, but I'm going out there and I'm giving everybody my best. Kross said before adding that he shouldn't say anything about getting a better deal from Impact because, hypothetically, they could use it against me. Now, here's the thing. Killer Kross is an amazing talent. If you watch Impact, it's an amazing show that they put on. Does it have the huge production of a WWE? No. Does it even look as huge and produced as AEW? No. Is it small venues? Yes. But when you get into the storylines and the action, it's amazing. And it's fun to watch. So I feel for them a little bit because they have this great, amazing talent that they probably just can't afford to put on a better deal. Right? So for him and them, this is a tough spot. He does and was performing at a higher level than probably what he was being compensated for. Now, I don't know what the guy gets paid, and it's none of my business. But I believe him when he says he was doing more than what he felt he was being compensated for. So, you know, he's right. He can't go out there and bust balls about not getting paid enough and then expect to walk into Impact tapings and pay-per-views and them just be like, hey, what's going on, buddy? You're in the main event tonight. Because that's not going to end up happening if he pisses them off, right? They're not going to try to find a way to pay him if he pisses them off. At the same time, from Impact's side, he's not going to show up and do these events if they piss him off because he's not making enough money to even cover his expenses, right? So both sides of that are in a really tough spot. I hope they can find some common ground because I would love to see them keep Killer Kross. He's so talented and fun to watch. Side note to that, he does touch on, he was asked if Jon Moxley's experience has made him less likely to go to WWE. His response to that was actually pretty interesting, and so I wanted to share it. No, it doesn't, because I have to walk my own path. Take on opportunities in life and roll the dice to see where you can succeed. I 100% believe, and I am not saying this from an egocentric place, I believe any company that I work in, no matter what the circumstances are, I'm going to excel. I think that any door that I'm going to walk through, I'm going to have enough in my hands that I'm going to be able to get what I personally need out of it, which is a sense of fulfillment. So, I just thought it was interesting. He's basically just saying, if WWE came knocking, whether it's NXT or main level, I have to entertain it because I got to walk my path. And what happened for somebody else doesn't necessarily mean that's going to happen to me. And he's right. So I got a great respect for him for that outlook on going to WWE. I think too many now look at it and say, oh, it's not the right place to go for young talent. You could be held back or struggle or whatever myriad of circumstances you can come up with on why somebody shouldn't go there. And especially with AEW becoming more prominent, they're going to be getting into weekly TV. Depending on how successful that is, that gives another option out there. About Tessa Blanchard, people went nuts about her going to AEW because of Tully, her father, now being with AEW as a manager for Sean Spears, or they're calling him an executive advisor, which is fancy terms for manager. But everybody instantly thought that, and I stated about her that she'll do what's best for her and what's best for her career. She will weigh those options and decide what the right thing to do is. And right now, she's doing the right thing over in Impact Wrestling. I mean, they have that headed down a path with her that could possibly put her on their biggest pay-per-view of the year, Bound for Glory, in a world title match. We don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if that's going to happen, I should say. But can you imagine if they go that route? If they have her beat Sammy and put her in a world title match at Bound for Glory, her against Brian Cage, wow. Because they're setting up a nice pay-per-view there. I wasn't planning on actually talking about that, but I'm going to throw this in there before this runs too long. You have the possibility of Tessa Blanchard versus whoever the Impact World Champion is at the time. I would have to assume it's probably still going to be Brian Cage. You always have OVE and Sami Callihan who you can put them in there with almost anybody, and they're going to have a great match. You really can go ahead and continue the Moose feud with the hardcore legends that they've had in and out of there. You have a feud that's been set up now with Rhino and Michael Elgin. Oh my God, what a match that would be, right? If Rhino is 3/4 of what he had been in the past, which all things are showing, and he has stated in an interview that I watched him do with Chris Van Fleet on YouTube here, that he's getting back in shape and he's back down to kind of his post ECW weight. If he's back in shape and ready to go, those two will put on a hell of a match. You got the North with the World Tag Team titles. You don't know necessarily where that's going to go, but I mean, you could put them back in there with the Rascals one-on-one. It's up in the air what's going on with LAX, but who knows? Maybe they can bring them back in. There's just a myriad of possibilities. You got Rich Swann with the X Division Championship, which he's going to be defending against one of OVE this weekend, or not this weekend, but during TV tapings, I believe it is. So they're just doing a ton of great stuff over there, and bringing in people going in and out. It keeps everything fresh. And again, I know the production doesn't look as nice and all that when you watch it, and it can be hard to find. But take the time, make the effort to find it, because it's highly entertaining. With all that, folks, just want to say thank you for clicking on the video today. Please, once again, that little red button down there that says subscribe, you want to click on that. And then click that little thumbs up button and leave a comment down below. Give me your opinion, because that's part of what this channel is all about as well. And until next time, remember, life's always better when you're entertained. So find yourself some pro wrestling and just be entertained. Thanks, everybody.